This is a mystical story designed for background listening while you go about your day. Let your imagination drift as you listen. The house that waits at the end of Fallow Street. Some houses are lived in. Others are simply waiting. There is a house at the very end of Fallow Street, tucked behind gnarled trees and overgrown hedges, where the wind sounds different, more like a whisper than a breeze. It's a two-story Victorian relic with rotting wood and windows that always seem just slightly open. No lights ever shine from inside, but if you pass it at just the right hour, you'll see shadows moving between the curtains. No one has lived there for 53 years. And yet, people still speak of it, or rather, around it. No one says its name. They just call it that place. There's a local legend that if you enter the house alone and stay until midnight, it shows you something. Something from before your time. Something you weren't supposed to see. And then, it doesn't let you forget. Most consider it nonsense. Teenagers dare each other to get close, but no one actually goes inside. Until Mira did. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She wasn't chasing ghosts or filming a vlog. She was simply curious. A quiet woman in her late 20s, Mira had recently moved into town after inheriting a small bookstore from an uncle she never met. She heard the rumors about the house within her first week. She noticed how people lowered their voices when speaking of it, how they crossed the street when walking past it, even in daylight. She walked by the house often. She noticed the birds never landed on its roof. That fog clung tighter to the yard there, even on sunny mornings. She also noticed something else. There were always 3 chairs on the front porch, and sometimes they were in different positions. On the 7th night of living in town, she stood at the gate of the house just after dusk. Her breath misted in front of her, even though it was warm outside. She felt that stillness in the air, like the whole block had stopped breathing. She stepped inside. The gate creaked behind her, but didn't close. She walked up the warped steps to the porch. The wood groaned under her feet. Her hand touched the doorknob. Ice cold. She didn't need to turn it. The door opened for her. The inside was exactly what she expected. Layers of dust, time-warped wallpaper peeling at the corners, furniture covered in sheets. But it didn't feel abandoned. It felt like someone had just left the room a moment ago. She stepped into the parlor. The fireplace was dead, but the logs were fresh. A faint scent of lavender hung in the air. And then, the ticking. A grandfather clock in the hall began to tick, though Mira hadn't noticed it before. With each tick, the light seemed to dim. She heard footsteps upstairs. She called out, "Hello?" But her voice felt swallowed. Nothing answered. Still, she climbed the stairs. Each step moaned beneath her weight, echoing unnaturally loud. Upstairs, the hallway was narrow. The doors on either side were all slightly ajar. Cold air breathed out from each one. At the end of the hall was a door that stood closed, heavy, solid, different from the rest. She reached for the knob. It turned easily. Inside was a study, or what used to be one. Shelves lined the walls, filled with books whose titles were worn off. A single desk stood in the center, facing a tall mirror instead of a window. Strange, she thought. And then she saw her reflection, but it wasn't quite her. The woman in the mirror was her, yes, but older. Eyes hollow. Hair streaked with grey. Behind that version of herself stood 3 people, faceless, unmoving. They rested hands on her shoulders. Mira spun around. The room was empty. She turned back. The mirror was blank. Suddenly, a clock struck midnight. But not the one downstairs. This was louder, deeper, as if coming from inside the walls. The books on the shelves began to rustle. Pages turned themselves. One fell open on the desk. Mira, unable to stop herself, stepped forward and read the page. It was her obituary. Her name, her photo, the words, "Vanished in the Fallow Street house, presumed dead." She stumbled backward. The room grew darker. The mirror began to bleed shadows, pouring them into the room like smoke. Whispers filled the air, dozens of voices speaking in languages she didn't understand. The desk shook, the air grew heavy, and then silence. When Mira woke, it was morning. The house was still. The sun shone through a cracked window. Birds chirped outside. She was alone. The obituary page was gone. The mirror was empty. She left the house. The gate closed behind her this time. She never told anyone what happened. But from that day on, Mira changed. People noticed. She was quieter, even more withdrawn. She started locking her bookstore even during the day. When customers did come in, she seemed distracted, always glancing at the mirror in the corner. And then the dreams began. Every night, the same house, the same ticking, the same mirror. But the figures in it grew clearer. Each night, a little closer. One day, she removed all mirrors from the shop. But at night, the reflections still came. Eventually, she left town, packed up and vanished, just like the story she read on that page. No forwarding address, no goodbye. No one took over the bookstore. No one goes to the end of Fallow Street anymore. The house still waits. The chairs still move. And if you listen, just past midnight, you might hear ticking that doesn't belong to any clock. Some houses are not haunted. Some houses remember. And some are waiting for you.